So, X over. Title is a question. Very curious how much a feel changes things. Title being how much of game sense can be learned over having a feel for things. And I think you're on the right track, but you're approaching it wrong. So the way that I would be thinking about this is knowledge will eventually become intuition. How can I accelerate the process of that happening? You asked how much of game sense can be learned over having a feel for things, and I feel like you're approaching this as a battle, when in reality, it's a progression. You start with game knowledge, and you progress to game intuition by deepening your knowledge, by being exposed to the topic more, right? So like if you heard myself, Wahujin, OD26, Dreamwell, Worthy TV, so some of these like good coaches on the internet, if you heard them talking about a concept, and you go and you watch a video on every one of their channels about that concept, and you talk about it with people in a Discord and stuff, that will increase the amount of neurons allocated to that topic in your brain, and neurons that fire together, wire together, and they also go faster, and they're easier to access because they're used more often, and that signals to your brain that it's important. You do that enough times, and you apply that in-game enough times, and it will become intuitive, okay? Stuff like Wahujin explaining advanced topics like the chain, and how having a broken chain and seeking the broken chain vastly changes how people lurk and rotate in ranked games. That's a very advanced topic that for pro players is intuitive because they've just seen it so many times that they don't even have to think about it. And that's why they can't explain it. That's why they're not coaches, they're players, because they don't have to think about it. It's intuitive. This is game intuition for them. They're so far beyond game knowledge that they can't even turn it back into knowledge. It's just, they just go, oh, I just knew, right? And that's where you have to be. You have to go from game knowledge to game intuition to so far into game intuition that you don't even know how to explain it anymore. Like there's like concepts in like pre-calc and calculus and shit. Like I don't know how to fucking get a derivative. I don't know how to do the proof for a derivative, but I know what it is. I know how to use it, and I know how to apply it to like advanced concepts in like calc 1 through 3. Like I don't know what the fuck a derivative is. It's like the slope of a tangent line. I don't know how to teach someone that, So yeah, all in all, it's a progression. It goes from game knowledge to game sense, and that progression is first time exposed to like being exposed to it more, applying it so many times that it becomes intuitive. Okay, so you can think about this anywhere in your life. If you let's say you're doing sports, because esports, there's like a lot of correlation there. Let's say you're doing sports and you're learning how to do tennis and basketball. Okay, tennis, you're learning your overhand swing. You're just going boom, boom, boom all the time. At first, it's going to be pretty hard, and you're going to have to learn what correct technique looks like by watching someone who does it, and you're going to try to copy them directly. But eventually, you're going to get that form down with enough reps such that you don't even have to think about it anymore. Your hand just goes to the right place, and you just smack the ball, and it goes over the net, and it lands in the court. And you don't know how it happens or why, but your body just knows. And this is talked about a lot in the inner game of tennis.
10 years later.
Sorry, I had to go to my pile of books. Great book, okay? Inner game of tennis. Now, the other example would be, I said basketball, so let's use a reverse layup. So you're learning how to do a reverse layup, and at first it's really tricky, You're going backwards, you kind of have to look back at the net, and you don't really know what you're doing. But eventually, you learn how to put the right spin on it, and you learn to not put, like, right side spin if you're going for right reverse, because it'll just go out instead of going towards the basket, stuff like that. You learn these things through experience, and eventually you don't have to think about it. And that's how it works for everything. Even something where we go outside of the sports space into like education. Your times tables, I hope you know them by heart. Because in elementary school, you were made to do so many reps that you just know it. If I ask you 6 times 6, 36, or just pop into mind, Now maybe if I ask you something that you haven't thought about as much, then like 12 times 15, you're gonna like 180 is it's gonna take you longer to think of. Reps makes it intuition, makes it a feeling. That's why I like to make a distinction between game knowledge and game intuition, because game knowledge is what you can apply in a session. It's what you can apply in review, in analysis, in between rounds. This is why I think that like coaches don't have to be necessarily high ranked, because game knowledge is all you need. You don't need game intuition to tell somebody what's wrong in a review, because you have the time to think, you have the time to process, you have the time to explain. However, in a game, it's very different. You need game intuition, and this intuition, this subconscious ability to extract information from the depths of your mind and instantaneously apply it to your games, is what makes or breaks a good player. And then on top of that, your ability to communicate these intuitions to your team such that they are on the same page as you will greatly increase your odds of winning game. I would suggest reading The Inner Game of Tennis. He talks about it a lot, especially in the first few chapters, about the difference between self 1 and self 2, where he identifies self 1 as being the conscious mind, which deals with identity and reactions to events, and self 2 being the body and the subconscious mind, which just, it only acts. And self 1 constantly interferes with self 2. And your goal is to, first of all, remove self 1's judgment such that self 2 can do its best job. And to also take things that are initially required for self 1 to do and leave them to only be done by self 2. For example, with aim is intuitive, okay? You don't think, okay, I'm gonna take my mouse and I'm gonna go this far to the right or this far to the left, right? Like you don't think about this. It just happens. You just know how far you have to aim. Unless you do think about it, but if you do, you probably wouldn't be asking questions about game sense. And that's the basis of all skills that you're going to be learning, especially for Valorant, for sports, just in general. Most skills, you're going to want to go from first exposure all the way till I don't even know how to explain this to people anymore because I'm so damn inundated in how to use it that I don't even know the basics. Yeah, hope that helped.